sunny spaces, smiling faces, happy places. But every sunny space holds a shadow. Behind every smile are sharp teeth, and every happy place has something sinister lurking just below the surface.
Welcome to We Saw the Devil, the podcast diving deep into the chilling realms of true crime. Join your host Robin as she unravels mysteries that have left investigators baffled and armchair sleuths obsessed. Be forewarned, dear listener. We Saw the Devil is not for the faint of heart. Our unflinching exploration will take you to the darkest corners of the psyche and through the unimaginable depths of human darkness to unearth stark secrets to the harsh light of day. Nothing will be left untouched. Are you ready? Are you sure? We saw the devil.
Hello, everyone. This is Robin, and as you can likely tell, I'm here with part 11 of the Chris Chan saga. And I feel like a harbinger of doom or something, because that's pretty much how I feel when I post Chris Chan content on social media. But I just want to state for the record that, in case I haven't been clear, when I post the videos and pictures that Chris has uploaded to the internet, I'm not trying to do that as a tool to further troll or further ridicule him. Why I think so many of us are fascinated by Chris Chan in this entire story is because, yes, he is autistic, and that is not a bad thing. There is a whole host of mental issues compounding this. And his behavior is, you have to admit, pretty unique. I can't say that I have seen another human being like Chris, read a journal or a book about someone like Chris. So I just want to put it out there that any content that I post, that, original Chris Chan content, is not meant to be malicious or mean. It's meant purely so you guys can understand and visualize what I'm telling you and describing. In the last episode, we more or less ended with the 4 videos that Chris made for Jackie. They all entailed him carrying around his sex doll to various places and overall pretending that it was Jackie in real life scenarios. Also during this time, his mother had been trying to bribe him with money to stop wearing the sports bra. And then also at this point, he was wearing women's underwear as well, or panties, as some people like to call them. Chris is really engaged with gender fluidity at this time, and his family is not tolerant of it. And this behavior just all around continued. All of it. In terms of Jackie, she kept requesting videos. So the first video after the 4 that Chris did was a video of him going into Wal-Mart. Jackie asked him to go into Wal-Mart, throw glitter, and make humping motions in an aisle. And Chris did try. He did go into a Walmart, bless his heart. But ultimately, he decided that there were just too many people. So he opted to do it in a dressing room. Please see the supplemental video that I just posted for this episode on our YouTube channel. I will put the link to the video in this episode, so after you finish the episode or in between, you can just easily reference it. It shows Chris in a red women's tank top and denim miniskirt. He goes into a changing room in a Walmart. Now, on its own, that's brave right there. He goes into the changing room and he starts to make gobbling noises as he dances, and then he lets out a couple very sexual moans. He then pulls his mini skirt up over his rear end for the camera and shows that he has a My Little Pony cutie mark, like the little things on the haunches of My Little Ponies. Naturally, that was put up on the internet. But then the next video, this one would go on to be one of the most popular in Christery. And a little backstory on this. So back in 2008, the world came to know of Brazilian fart porn. And this is for all of you people who may be even younger than me. This time on the internet was interesting to say the least, right? Yeah, Brazilian fart porn. 2008, it hit the internet. And hard flex, I know, but stay with me here. So people found it hilarious. It kind of went viral and was on a bunch of different shock websites. So someone ended up creating a website called Cakefarts.com. And they posted a video, and it's a woman, who, bless her heart, seductively, or at least trying to, she's walking up towards the camera, and she says, "You know what I like? Cake farts." And then she proceeds for several minutes to thunderously break wind while sitting naked on top of a chocolate cake, like getting it up into every nook and cranny. More or less, by 2023 standards, that's just a run-of-the-mill fetish video for most people. Hardly as shocking as it was back in 2008. So Jackie, aka Alec Benson Leary, wanted Chris to do that. In an email to Chris, Alec wrote, quote, "Hey Apple Chris, thanks for putting up with Daddy last night. I had gone out with my new coworkers for a drink after work. When I got home, I saw that Mommy Dearest had let him get into the liquor cabinet again. Daddy's kind of bitter about Beavis and Butthead since they knew one another years ago. And when you mentioned that he was like Hank, he flew off the handle. When he's sober, he's totally not like that. But when he's got a lick of drink, the bitter stuff just bubbles right on over and blows up. Anywho, the Wal-Mart video was super kawaii. You're so good at booty dropping. Next time, we'll do the video at home, okay? Tee-hee. For Tuesday's video, I would really, really like for you to do the Cakefarts video. I want you to get a hot little thong on and wear it. Then I want you to write on your bare bottom cheeks, awesome sauce. Because that's one of my favorite phrases when it comes to hot stuff. Hee. Write awesome on one cheek and sauce on the other, and nice and big so I can see it without squinting. Then I want you to buy a chocolate sheet cake and use that for the video. I want you to start the video with it facing you. Ask, you know what I like most? Then lick your lips and wink. Then say cake farts. Then put the camera into position and start walking over to the cake all sexy like you are seducing it. Say, let's get this done. Oh yeah, Then settle down on top of it and go for a wild ride, but super close enough so the camera can get a perfect view. Fart like crazy. If you run out of gas, make noises and bounce that ass up and down. I can't, y'all. When you're done getting that ass all cakey, pick up the camera and focus it on your face. And eat some of that cake all sexy like for me. Roll your tongue and wink and make kissy faces while your face is smeared and messy with it. Be a cute little cake monster for me. Meow. This way you can use your handy dandy PSI. Sound hot? I think so. I can't wait to hear your sexy, sassy, cute voice tell me all these naughty things. Looking forward to speaking to you after, too. 10 p.m. Tuesday. Same time, same lovey place. Always yours, XOXO, Jackie Pie. That was a hard one to get through. And on July 18th, Chris bought the cake and he made the video. That's the shortened video that I posted on Instagram and TikTok yesterday. And he did it. Also around this time, he's sending Jackie a lot of nudes. Like a lot of nudes, particularly of him dressed up in a bra, women's underwear, more feminine appearing garments, and holding his genitals. 2 days later, on the 20th, the Quickie actually outed Chris's involvement with the Tomboy and Tomgirls of Virginia forum. Do you guys remember that one from the previous episode? So as Chris was starting to say that he felt like a Tomgirl, so many trolls got together and actually bought a domain name and created a fake forum for Tomboy and Tomgirls of Virginia. And then a troll said, "Hey, Chris, wink, wink, look at this forum. Don't you live in Virginia? That'll be perfect for you." So Chris joined it. Chris, not putting two and two together about how he was outed, as he was posting anonymously on there, he decided to post in the forum and introduce himself by name. He said, quote, "My Tomgirl and Tomboy acquaintances. I feel it is time I introduce myself better. I am more than just a Tomgirl. I am the high-functioning autistic person who is heavily emotionally damaged, artistic inspiration lost with paranoia, deception, blackmail, and plain hurtful words from those bottom-feeding trolls. I am the hand-drawing original creator of Sonichu, Rosechu, in the city of Quickville, Virginia, USA. I am Christian Weston Chandler of Ruckersville, Virginia. I had joined this forum with the opportunity to associate with my own misunderstood kind of people, commonly mistaken for amongst the gays and lesbians. I concealed my identity on here reasonably, prayerfully not to be found by those trolls. For years, I have fallen victim to their treachery. I have tried within my own limited knowledge and technology to counterattack those fiends. I have mostly failed. And as a result, my reputation on the internet fell deep into their treacherous exaggerations, lies, and crap. If I had any knowledge or technology, I would have hacked into and destroyed every single one of their web pages, servers, and whatnot long ago. but I did and still do not. All I could do in the end was hide in the old-fashioned, as would appear to be now, world of real life off the internet. Yet I am one who does not like to be left behind in the modern world. Also because of them, it has been impossible for me to get a job. Damned negative background checks. And I would appreciate reducing the results of my full name from over 2 freaking million results back down to less than 100. Now that they have found me on here, y'all have been dragged into my darkness. For that, I feel deep shame and regret, and I am really sorry about that. I am not the disgruntled, mean, or perverted person they have mislabeled of me. I am only a normal, heterosexual, good-natured, high-functioning, autistic tomgirl, and I want to be treated like a normal person. And I wish I do not have to be paranoid of those fiends and their hurtful web pages. End quote. Also at this time, Chris makes a new Facebook page, and he changes his privacy settings. Ultra high privacy settings. And then he just sends the link to Jackie, and then his childhood friend Sarah, and a couple other people that he knew in real life. Also, Kim Wilson, the troll, was on there as well. I believe it was just Jackie and Kim as far as being the two, online people that he added. The account for Jackie didn't have a Facebook page at this time, so I guess Alec Benson Leary made a quick Facebook page, and Jackie held on to Chris's profile. Oh, and by the way, along with that Facebook link, to his Facebook page, he also sent Jackie a picture of his, quote, according to him, Jackie-inspired erection. Now, end of July 2011, multiple things are going on at the same time. Multiple things. First, Chris saw an article in a local newspaper about how the owner of the game place, remember that place where he met Megan and went a lot as a teenager? So the owner of the game place, Robert Lightburn, he was caught in kind of a to catch a predator type of sting, and he was actually convicted of trying to arrange a meetup with a policeman who was posing as a 14-year-old little girl. So with Chris's logic, obviously that meant that Michael Snyder himself, the game place manager, and Chris's arch nemesis, was also a pedophile. It's at this time that Chris tells Jackie, I'm going to take Michael Snyder down. All of the trolls in the Tomboy and Tomgirl forum of Virginia, they all told Chris that they were dedicated to helping him get the quickie taken down and get back at the trolls. Funny story is that most of the people in the Tomgirl and Tomboy forum were also the same members from the quickie, but hey, I digress. So they start sending him ridiculous information on some of the other people that Chris had been talking to, like Surf Shack Tito, Alec Benson Leary, Jack Thaddeus, Thorg, on a bunch of different trolls. And it was all ridiculous. So on August 6th, he created the first video, which was an expose on Surf Shack Tito. And what's interesting is that in this video to Surf Shack Tito, he mentions his ex-girlfriend, Heather, aka the Wallflower. If you recall, she's the girl he met locally through church who hated him. Literally, the second time they talked, she was like, stay the fuck away from me. She was never romantically interested in him. And just within a couple days of corresponding via email, Chris had already started to pester her and quiz her on her romance history. So she told Chris to leave her alone and never speak to me again. And then Chris was on YouTube being like, my girlfriend, the Wallflower. And then naturally, trolls be scary. So they were able to dox her, find her exact identity. She contacted the quickie and was like, please, please, please make me anonymous. Do not let my name get out there. For whatever reason, the trolls were like, okay, we kind of feel bad for this one. And so that's basically how that entire situation played out. But in the Surf Shack Tito video, Chris actually mentions her again and refers to her as his ex-girlfriend. Now, this is the quote-unquote call-out era of Chris Chan, or the call-out saga, as people call it. This would last from the middle of August through the beginning of September and then take a little bit of a break. And if you're interested in the videos, they are widely available online. There's handfuls of them. They are ridiculous. I personally do not feel like it's necessary to tell this story, but if you want to see them, you can. But in a nutshell, Chris makes a series of videos, including a threat that if they do not send him thousands of dollars in unmarked bills in a small white envelope, that Chris would reveal their true identities. The only one to note, which was more like art imitating life imitating art, is when trolls gave Chris the idea that Ahuvia Rotem Harel, another Chris Chan-like figure on the internet, was actually Jack Thaddeus, the troll who repeatedly hacked Chris's PlayStation Network. So Chris makes several videos wrongly calling Ahuvia out and making fun of her, putting her down for being trans and having gender reassignment surgery, being open. Ahuvia then in turn makes several response videos to Chris, respectfully calling him out for his bigotry and telling him again that he had the wrong person, that they've never spoken, or made a video about Chris Chan whatsoever. And Ahuvia was a trans woman, and she had had a very similar experience on the internet as Chris Chan in terms of being autistic, doxxed consistently, constantly bullied by online trolls, and just overall Ahuvia's behavior was in a lot of ways just as outrageous as Chris Chan's. It just never turned to, at least to my understanding and my knowledge of it, it didn't turn just like completely as insanely sexual as Chris Chan's did. I'm going to play a super quick clip of Chris Chan calling Ahuvia out, and then following that, I'm going to play a short clip of Ahuvia responding to Chris and more or less calling him out for his beliefs. And I'm playing a little bit longer clip for Ahuvia because, Chris is surrounded by so many trolls, people who lie. His entire life is literally trolls. He doesn't have a single friend in the world. He has his parents who are awful people, and then he has trolls online. He has nothing, and it's really sad. So as an instance of these two real life, very similar figures kind of having a very public and bizarre spat, it was very, very, very weird. So anyway, first clip Chris Chan, the second one is Ahuvia.
And also my associate that gave me the information on him, he pretty much just pointed out calling him a tom girl, but you know what? He's not a tom girl at all. He's just a full-blown gay. Anyway, get back on the topic. His name is Ahuvia, which it is spelled in the title of this video. He is in Pennsylvania, and I have pretty much just gave a few descriptions of him. Yeah, he definitely appreciates his homosexual culture as it is. I mean, yeah, everybody who is a homophobe, go ahead and call him on it. Call Ahuvia a goddamn homo. Homo. I'm a homo. You get to blah 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 blah.
Hello, Christian Weston Chandler. This is Ahuvia Harrell from Philadelphia, PA. It's came to attention that you made a video about me criticizing my and hundreds of thousands of other people's decision to transition gender. I'm going to have to tell you this pretty much straight. I'm not going to apologize to you and your family for your stupidity, for your ignorance, because you just don't deserve it from me. Chris, my decision to transition gender was not done in like one day. It has been nearly 10 years of debate. 10 years I struggled to figure out who I really am. And, I tried, being male for, the better part of 24 years, and, it didn't work. It just didn't work in the end. You keep trying and keep trying. You end up just keep spinning out worn out wheels in the end. So I said to myself, you know what? I want to I need to transition. This is needed. I'm going to be able to be happy for the rest of my life. I'm still early in the transition. I mean, I've only been on estrogen for a year now, and right now I don't really look like or sound like even I pass as either gender. And that's okay, Chris. And I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy to be a Hoovia Harrell. You, however, you're not happy being yourself. You can't be yourself. You keep being locked into this idea that, it's the straight, heteronormative, male-female binary way you have to live, or it's no way at all. Let me tell you something. As someone who's a male-to-female transgender and who is pansexual, this means, Chris, I love everyone regardless of their gender identity. Gay, straight, bi, trans. I love everyone. That's something you are incapable of doing. Because you have shown the world you are incapable of tolerating these differences.
Now, of course, through all of the calling out stuff, Chris was still madly into his sweetheart, Jackie. And they weren't exactly together. They were speaking, sexually, romantically, but Chris still put his foot down and said, hey, I've never met you in person, so you can't be my official sweetheart. So that being said, he was still kind of going through the motions. So he wrote a poem for her. On August 12th, Chris publishes a poem that he wrote for Jackie, and I'm just going to play it for you so you can listen to him recite it. Here you go.
Hi, sweetheart. As I have told you in an email, I've written you a poem recently. I wrote it in my notebook. So I'm going to read it to you now. As soon as I get it right. On the finger adjustment. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. The red-maned deer, from me, written yesterday on the 11th, came to me while I was waking up. The red-maned deer is quite an elusive, majestic creature of any forest of this planet Earth, and even of the universe. She gallops with sweet grace and style on her hooves of twinkle and glitter. Her dazzling coat not only keeps her warm, but beautiful with sexy flair. Her shimmering red mane is long and wild, and when the beams of sun and moon shine through, it's godlike majestic. She has eyes of green, like a slice of lime. Her snout is so cute, like a bunny or a kitten, and her smile and voice truly cute and sweet like a lute. I tracked after her for months, keeping observation and camouflage. She has an interesting family, including her birth mother and a father a step away. They treat her sadly like a Cinderella, keeping her from seeing her prince. Yet the red-maned doe is fully grown, and is very wise and aware of the forest laws. One day, as I followed, too much my surprise, she turns her head and looks directly at me. I hid for a short moment until she spoke, in my language very clear. Come out, my dear watcher. I have been very aware of you all these months. I've watched you as you rested and dined of the forest fruits and ripe pen to tree skin. Please come closer. Stroke my coat and mane. Allow me to admire your face close to mine. I approached with erect elation, her coat smooth as silk, her mane brushing my fingers like a spring breeze. I looked into her eyes as she to mine. Entranced with her temptation and beauty, I was truly surprised when she kissed me deep. Damn. And then I kissed her back, and we made truest sweet love. This was in fact not an act of bestiality, for you see, the red-maned deer I have been communicating with and tracking is really my womanly sweetheart named Jacqueline Rami. I love you.
To recap, yes, this is a poem about Chris tracking a deer. The deer represents Jackie. He finds it, and then he fucks it. The end. Nothing else really happens throughout the rest of August. And going into September, y'all, September is a grim month for the Chandler household. On September 2nd, Chris's father, Bob, is rushed to the local hospital. 2 days later, on the 4th, he celebrates his 84th birthday. And then he passes away 2 days later on September 6th, just a couple hours after Chris Chan posted a new sweetheart search on his Facebook. Chris spends pretty much the entire month of September offline, but we now know how he was feeling the day after Bob's passing because his emails to Jackie were leaked. The day after his passing, Chris wrote to Jackie, "I could not get to sleep. My heavier cries from my father's passing is really hitting me bad. Suffice to say, I am feeling through multiple emotions. I, like my mother, cannot believe that he is gone. In a dream I had years ago, the Grim Reaper made an appearance. I asked him directly, I understand my dad does not have long to live, but I have to ask while you're here, when will you be taking my father? He informed me that he would not claim his soul until the year 2015. So I've known since before 2005 that Robert had a good number of years left. 2015. Damn you, Reaper, this is 2011. I was promised that we'd be blessed with Father's presence for 4 more years. I was promised. Sigh." Upon assuming his responsibilities of household finances, bill paying, and helping my mother, I started reading his payment plan binder, figured out his chart organization, and got started okay with a better informed mind. I have been emotionally comforting to my mom and keeping her straight as she is still feeling drunk like weird, lonely, and sad. When I have my moment, I am able to share a smile with her. Currently, she is sleeping in comfort up in my room with a CD of big band romance tracks my Aunt Harriet offered to Robert for his 84th birthday. At least now I have finally confirmed that you, a shorter than me woman, can crash on my couch, and I would take the bed without having feet hit me. I mean, I am uncertain my bed is wide enough for 2. I'll check in again later. Love you, Jackie. Chrissy. And that is the very last leaked email between Chris and Jackie ever. Chris also has a phone conversation with a troll on this day. Apparently with this troll, it's speculated to be Jackie, but no one knows for sure. He mourned, he cried, he sobbed, he talked about his grief, he talked about his father, and then the troll, whoever it was, made the decision not to release it out of respect for Bob. The Quickie actually shut down the website for 9 days in the middle of September out of respect for Bob's passing. Instead, they had the website redirect to a memorial landing page that said, Robert Franklin Chandler Jr., September 4th, 1927 to September 6th, 2011. Now, I'm just going to fast forward for 1 second here and just get the spoiler out of the way. And it's regarding some insight into the Chandler home and the household at 14 Branchland Court. About 3 months later, at the end of 2011, trolls wanted to know more about Chris's home life. And also, quite a few of them were actually legitimately concerned for his welfare. You'll later learn the circumstances, but one troll pretends to be a psychiatrist by the name of Dr. Perrone, and he puts on a British accent, and he calls Rocky Shoemaker, Chris's longtime support system at church. I believe she's his pastoral counselor, and Rocky is hesitant to give any details at first, but Dr. Perrone maintains that he wants to help Chris, and he's court appointed, and he needs to help him. People are worried about his home life, as far as like the house, if it's okay, is it fit for him to live there, and that he knew that Chris was involved with her and the church, and wanted to know more about it. Rocky ends up spilling the beans. Apparently, the Chandler home was completely infested with bugs. They were so terrible that when Bob Chandler went to the hospital for surgery, remember, he had colon cancer surgery, he had to be quarantined away from everyone else due to the thousands of bug bites all over his body. Rocky Shoemaker told Dr. Perrone about how when Bob was released back home to recover from that surgery, and with home health nurses showing up to help with the recovery and bandaging, they went to the Chandler household and they discussed how awful it was and how bad the bugs were and that the environment was just terrible. Their description of the home disgusted Rocky so much that she had actually, through all of the help that she had given Chris throughout the years, she refused to go to his home. And guys, I want you to think about it. Bob Chandler went in for colon cancer surgery and was quarantined there due to bugs because he had scabies. These bugs literally burrowed into his fucking body. He was eventually sent home to recover from the colon cancer surgery, and he was literally being eaten alive as he laid, dying on his couch in his room. Barbara had nothing to do with him other than what was just bare minimum necessary. Don't forget that she had cut both Bob and Chris off in terms of cooking or doing anything for them. She didn't try to clean him or help him in any way. And Chris was too interested in his troll drama and making videos of himself farting on cakes and dancing to the song Fuck the Pain Away, while Bob was unable to move, being eaten alive by scabies and bed bugs. His heart failure and death 100% was quickened because of the environment that he was living in. And we learn all of that from Rocky Shoemaker. And I've been really hard on Bob throughout this whole series. I mean, sure, he was a white supremacist, a misogynist, and a homophobe. 3 out of the 4 kids in his life absolutely hated his guts and didn't even show up to his funeral. Chris didn't really seem to like him half the time either. And yes, his pride was so big that he couldn't bear the thought of having a son with autism. So he did everything in his power to prevent him from getting the support that he needed. I'm not a parent. I admittedly don't even like children. No offense to you people with crotch droplings. But I can say with relative certainty that Bob failed Chris on even the most basic freaking levels. And all of that being said, Bob was the only iota of normalcy that Chris had in his entire life. There was Bob, who was far too old and didn't have the toolbox to have a son with such psychological issues. There was Barb, who was manipulative, incredibly mentally ill, as well as a narcissist. Don't forget that she would force Chris to cuddle with her in bed inappropriately, and if anyone said anything to her or hurt her feelings, she would threaten to kill herself, frequently in front of Chris as his entire life, starting from basically toddler. And then there was Chris and hundreds of internet trolls. Bob was it. Bob was the most normal thing Chris ever had. In any case, we've now arrived at the moment that we've all been working towards here, at least in my opinion. Obviously, we can all speculate as to the different paths that someone's life can take if just one thing does or does not happen, that defining moment, kind of like the butterfly effect. How would my life be different if I had just blah, blah, blah? But in this case, the butterfly is a mentally ill and mid-functioning autistic man who's just in the beginning stages of gender transition and constantly thinks about one of two things: video games and violating women. And as I've been approaching this point, I've asked myself, if Bob had gotten Chris into a special needs program or kindergarten or gotten him the support that he needed from such a young age, would we be here in 2011 at this point? In my opinion, probably not. Would we be here? Would we be where we are right now in 2023? In my opinion, probably not. But obviously, I can't say that with any certainty whatsoever. I want to know what you guys think. As I cover this, I want you to consider everything you know about Chris Chan thus far. I feel like I've given you guys a pretty good foundation of most events of note in his life. And leave comments on the Instagram post for this episode. Do you think if Chris had had more support as a child, that he still would have turned out this way? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it mental illness? Then there's the factor of autism. How could this outcome of where we are in 2023, how could it have changed, if at all? But in any case, so October 28th, 2011, Chris and Barb are apparently out doing some shopping together and just happen to be near the game place. there was a large sign on the building that said that it's under new ownership. Remember Robert Lightburn that I mentioned earlier, the previous owner who got to catch a predator and arrested? So he had been the owner of the game place. The sign said the store was under new ownership of Mike and Madeline. And Chris, in all of his infinite wisdom, saw the sign and thought, under new ownership of Mike and Madeline. Sweet, I bet Mike Snyder's gone. So Chris and Barb go to the store to check things out. Chris and Mike Snyder immediately lock eyes. Mike tells Chris and Barb to leave. Chris takes out his Nintendo 3DS and snaps a picture of the interior of the game place. Now, side note, you can see all of these pictures in the YouTube video for the supplemental media that I posted. Now, I can only imagine what was going through Mike Snyder's head in that moment. Either way, Mike Snyder escorts Barb and Chris outside and then walks them to their car and then stands in front of their car. What actually transpired is actually kind of unclear, but somehow Mike Snyder was hit not once by Chris Chan and Barb Chan, but twice. Police then arrived, and as an officer begins to arrest Chris, Barbara loses her damn mind and attacks the police officer. Both end up with Class 5 felonies of failure to stop after an accident. And then Barb also picked herself up a felony charge of assaulting a police officer. And then Chris received a misdemeanor assault and then also one for misdemeanor trespassing. They were booked into the county jail and spent the night there until good old Rocky Shoemaker, Chris's pastoral counselor, bailed them out the next morning. And they went back home. Just 2 days later, Mike Snyder applies for and is granted orders of protection against both Barbara and Chris Chandler. Now, they were facing actual prison time for these crimes, y'all, especially Barbara, who at this time was 70 years old. 70 years old in the freaking county jail facing 2 felonies. Chris had 1 felony and 2 misdemeanors. Most people would lay low and be quiet. That if you've learned anything so far in these 11 episodes, you know that that's also not going to be applicable here. Chris decides to then upload all of the pictures that he took from the game place to the internet. And not only that, but he put them on the front page of the Quickie. The captions of his pictures said the inside of the place as of October 27, 2011. And then the 2 pictures of Mike Snyder that he took were captioned with, look at his quote-unquote slender figure, making fun of his weight. And the second one says, Michael Snyder, the dirty, fat, child-molesting Jew. And then Jew is crossed out and it says Gentile. On November 7th, Chris and Barb were formally charged in an arraignment. So later that week, while they were at church, people came up and told Chris and Barb that they should contact Rob Bell, a super well-known prosecutor and also a member of the Virginia General Assembly, and a well-known Republican politician. Yes, prosecutor, not a defense attorney, a prosecutor. Barb thought that if she threw her money at a high-powered attorney, it would totally save her ass. I mean them, not just her ass, but also them. Hashtag sarcasm. And here's the thing. Here's what I consider to be the absolute catalyst for everything that happens from this point forward with Chris Chan. Bob had left Chris and Barbara somewhere around an estimated $30,000 or so, between $30,000 and $50,000 as an inheritance. Nearly every single penny of that was spent on Rob Bell. Barb did not work. She stayed at home. Chris got his tugboat, what he referred to as his Social Security. And that was it. Chris spent almost every penny of his tugboat on video games and stuff like that. The house was already paid for, so really Barb was relying on Bob. Early January 2012, the case got a continuance for April. And during this time, Chris begins to post on Facebook almost daily. Of course, he has 2 primary targets. 1, Mike Snyder, and 2, his sweetheart search. But in terms of the Mike Snyder tirades, Chris went on many of them. All of his Facebook posts had a status of public and were shared dozens and dozens of times online. One post read, quote, I just am really pissed off with that Snyder advertising the place, not of Seaville as misrepresented in the place's naming, during this court crap Mom and I are having versus that bastard. And in 2 pages of this year's NBC 29 Check Us Out mailing. It is so offensive to me. He may as well be going against his own restraining order by standing on my own doorstep with a video player showing his cheap TV ad, waving a blown-up copy of his 10% off coupon like the US flag, and chucking a mud pie on my face. The same day, just a short time later, he posted, "The place is nothing but a meeting place and breeding ground for the perverted trolls and cyberbullies that have been torturing me the past greater than 4 freaking years. I want to see that place burned to the ground." His childhood friend, Anna McLaren, said, "You should be careful about saying things like that when there's a court case going on. I know you'd never burn it down, but even saying things like that could hurt your case if anybody had found out." January 30th, he updated his profile photo and asked his friends if they thought that he was cute and attractive, if he was good looking. The troll Kim Wilson gave pretty friendly and direct and decent advice, advising Chris not to be so negative. So he asked all of his friends to download a copy of his picture to their phones and show it to the random women in their lives. He wanted them to ask the random women in their lives if they found him cute and attractive. And then he followed that up by saying, "And if they ask, tell them I am single. And if they ask, how am I still single? Do not hesitate to inform them. He is very shy and high-functionally autistic. Tell them not to Google my name or just leave my name out of the conversation." On February 4th, after reading and interpreting a horoscope to mean that he was meant to go back to Fashion Square Mall to look for a sweetheart, Chris printed out over 50 copies of a flyer saying that the game place was a breeding ground for trolls. He dropped them on the floor of the mall as he walked through it, and then had a stack of them in the food court with him as well. A mall cop, aka Jerk Op, saw him and approached him, called Chris out by name because the Fashion Square Mall was already so aware of Chris, and most people who lived in the area, they were aware of who Chris was. Eventually ends up chasing him through the mall, at least according to Chris, and Chris managed to escape. A few other things happened in February. Chris takes part in a lemonade stand event hosted by Toys R Us. Basically, they have people gather and they build a lemonade stand out of Legos, and then any and all funds made, it's donated to a children's cancer charity. Basically, it was a program that you could do. You could choose your own charity and then make your own money and have the money sent there. And Chris wanted to do his own, so he did. And he called it Quickville Helps. And he set the goal at $50, and the goal was actually just reached in a couple hours purely by trolls. Donations came rolling in from trolls. And Chris's paranoia starts to really kind of hit around here, I would say, in the beginning. On February 13th, he says, "It is final in my mind and from my mother as an eye and ear witness of her consorting with Michael Snyder long before the November 2007. Megan Schroeder is the seed of the whole hate and smear campaign against me on the internet. If any of you all know where she is or have clues of her or her brother, John Schroeder's, current whereabouts, please inform me on this wall, post haste. She is needed brought to me, my mother, and our attorney for the great questioning and a huge piece of my mind. Thank you." And this is where we're going to stop in this episode, y'all, because this is kind of the point where things really start going downhill across the board, whether it's Chris being just really grossly sexual, the financial status, or finachu, as people in Christery call it. Like I said, Barb spent pretty much every penny of the inheritance from Bob on hiring a high-powered attorney because she didn't believe that a public defender would do a good enough job. And what ends up happening is that the attorney basically took all of that money and didn't do anything special. He calls Chris in court, which we will cover this in the next episode, calls him an autistic adult child. He plays that card, and he and Barbara end up having suspended sentences. A little spoiler alert here, but at least in my opinion, and probably the opinion of others that I've seen as well, this is really when it begins, because Bob provided a sense of stability in that household, even though it was a hoarder house, even though he was kind of awful, even though Chris brought the trolls in and didn't do his family any favors, he still provided this sense of stability, paid for everything, organized everything, and now that factor is gone in both Chris and Barb's lives. So in terms of a roller coaster, y'all, we are finally in the downhill slide. But that's it for today, y'all. What do you think? I want honest opinions, and please leave them on the Instagram post because it's a lot, I know. It's a lot. And I didn't do the update in the beginning, but kind of breaking news in the Chris Chan modern saga, of him being out and in the world today. So Chris has been out and about I'm not going to say the city, even though it's widely available, but just because I don't want to contribute to people trying to go searching it out in real life. But people have been seeing Chris out and around in town with a woman. And initially, people thought, okay, well, Chris was released back into the public. Maybe he is living in a care home and that's a handler, because people have seen her with him in multiple places. Like, I think at a Target, a Wal-Mart, a gaming store, somewhere else as well. But they've seen Chris with this woman. Sometimes they're with other people. As of yesterday, there is like CCTV footage. It is kind of grainy and blurry, but it kind of looks like he's actually kissing this woman that he's with. And there is a huge post over on the Reddit about it and people talking about it, but it certainly does look like Chris is actually kissing a woman. So that's leaving a lot of people to speculate, okay, well, where is Chris actually living? Chris has been driving around town. This woman is with him a lot, not every time. Who is she? Is Chris actually in a relationship with someone else? Why am I single? And Chris Chan has a girlfriend. But also, where's Barb? Where is Barb? No one knows where Barb is. It's probably like 2 weeks now since Barb was last seen at home. But where is Barb now? There was a run-in with Chris 2 days ago at a Walmart where basically a husband and wife were starting to walk in. The woman had on a Cartman t-shirt, I believe, and Chris made a Cartman joke as he walked by. And that's it. That's all that anybody knows at the moment. But it's going to be really interesting how this plays out. Chris plus women and the internet, it does not mix. It does not mix in any way. So that's it for today, guys. Next episode, like I said, is going to be Iris and I talking and discussing The Nun and The Conjuring 2 and the lore behind that and the Countdown to Halloween series. And then also, don't forget, if you are in or interested in a new podcast, I posted a feed drop called Generation Y, the Generation Y podcast. It's a big one. So if you've heard of it and you're not sure if you're quite interested, listen to that really quick 3.5-minute clip. And yeah, you might find another one that you'll add to your rotation. That's all, folks. Until next crime.